right, so just kind of a quick update. I need to get these axles under the frame, start getting this thing mocked up, getting the suspension put together. So first thing I got to do is get the shock hoops up under the truck though. So, all right, so it may not look like the most professional setup here for mocking up these, but it is kind of the easiest way to do this, and I'll explain. So basically, if I can get my shock hoops, or necessarily not even shock hoops, they're for the coilover, so these are actually going to support the entire axle. So these are 1/4 inch thick, real heavy duty tubing for this. It will get cross braced, but basically what I want to do before I go into the axle swap, put these hoops in place, center them up to where the axle's sitting, and then once I have these mounted up, welded to the frame, I don't even necessarily have to worry about bracing right at the moment. Just get the hoops in, get them set exactly precisely where they need to be, and then I can go ahead and set the other axle up underneath, and that way I'm not losing where I set the axle in place at. So I've seen guys do these trucks where they do the cab swaps, and then they've got their rear axle kind of moved way forward, and to me, or they got the axle moved too far back. And to me, it kills the look on these trucks. The axles were kind of preached forward from the factory. It looks great with the fenders. So best way to do, get the hoops on the frame, get the axle out, get the other axle in. Now you know exactly where it's sitting. So yeah, it's time for some more work on it. And here's a key thing with this. Because of the box, because of where I need to set the steering box, I don't have enough space to get this box forward. I don't have the box forward. I can't get it forward enough in order to get a pitman arm going back. So this is an FJ80 steering box that we're going to use, and this is kind of a perfect setup. This gives me the reason it does is I can put the pitman arm forward. The pitman arm is forward on these. This gives me the ability to move this steering box back. I no longer have issues with this front clip piece. Clearance here. The only tricky part is I've got to get enough space where I have this in between the hoops, and then at the same time, they're spread out enough to where that coil is missing the steering box at the same time. So you've got kind of a lot going on in this area. And then remember, if possible, I also want to go ahead, and this is down the line once we get our headers, and we figure out where our headers are going to sit on the 360 Magnum motor. But what I'd like to do is come down here with the exhaust and then shoot straight up under. And I should have plenty of room in here to do that, but remember, I've got a reservoir up here for the coilover. So the reservoir could go down below, could go up beneath, but for right now, steering box with the coilovers, that's going to be the key. And after a tremendous amount of kind of pacing around, toying with this idea, I've made the decision I'm going to send these hoops up through the fenders. A couple different reasons why. One, if I don't, I can't get the vehicle low enough to the ground, and this thing will look ridiculous with way too much lift. The only way to get the vehicle lower is to get the coilovers tucked up higher, and those King coilovers are a little tall. So essentially I'm gonna have to come through this fender about 4.5 to 5 inches. I'm not sure yet, but we're gonna make some measurements, and then I'm gonna pull the fender off and get these things mounted up and stop playing around with it. Biggest thing I needed to check was when these hoops come up through the fenders in here, will it clear the headlight? And supposedly it will, because as this hoop's coming up, it's gonna lean back further too. And then as far as assembly, I can't assemble these from the top. So I guess later on, get these hoops mounted. Later on, basically come in here and then cut a section out, slide them in, and then notch and have this extra piece that I put back on. And this will have to be a removable piece for the fender. that when it gets assembled, you assemble this piece, then the hood, then the cab, then the hood, and then but if anything, I should have thought about this before, because it's going to look really good with them coils and those hoops kind of peeking through the fenders. I feel a certain way about cutting one of those fenders, but let's be honest, this WC was completely trashed. It had been crushed by a tree. The fenders aren't in good shape. It's already a resto mod. I do want to hug the wild side of being looking like a crawler, and I think it'll be the right look for the truck. But just for the purist, I'm going to feel bad about cutting one of those fenders. I really will. But this was not a premium vehicle when I got it. It was a highly salvageable, barely at best, however you want to put it. But yeah. And yeah, that's coming up through the fender. It just a slight, you can't help but try to play with some things and see what it's going to look like. Of course, this will be up a little bit more, of course, and this whole fender's got to get shifted further back, and then we'll notch this out, keep a little panel in here. That way we'll just bolt it in separate from the back side once we put the whole thing together. Coilovers coming down, and I think that's going to be the look. Like, that is definitely, if you could give it the vision, it was definitely the right decision. So yeah. All right, so this is closer than I thought. It clears, but again, now I am doing this kind of a mock-up with the other hood. This is still the dented up hood, and I do have another piece for this here. But basically just to see if these towers are going to clear, and it looks like they will clear on the hood, and so that kind of gives us an idea of where it's going to set, and they're going to look really good on the truck. And I do feel a certain way about cutting the fenders, but sacrifice has got to be made. Otherwise, the lift is going to be ridiculous, and I won't be able to get the vehicle low enough. And yeah, then it's losing practical. It's not going to be practical. So again, it clears this side onto the hood just barely. So we've got a good space in between here. And of course, this whole fender will slide over. We'll notch this out. Of course, this whole fender's got to come forward about another, probably about another 1.5 inches. And this was my mark for my headlight. Did check this with the headlight housing. And then, yeah, take all this crap off, and then get the steering box back on it, and then see where I can re-brace these without getting in the way of the steering shaft. Get these braced up, and then start getting this axle out of here and get the Kingpin 60 up front. And I'll just say, I see a lot of guys doing these resto mods where they just put them on the Dodge frames. It would be significantly easier just to use a newer 90s Dodge frame and cab swap it. This is where the real fabrication comes in. But this, to me, is worth it, and this is the type of truck that's definitely worth it to do it for. This is, it's gonna make the truck. Having the right frame underneath of it, I think that was a good call too. So yeah, it's a little bit of progress, and an entire day just for the hoops. But that's what it takes. So yeah.